This review is about whales and the elusive white whale, my Moby Dick if you will. Every time I discuss headphones, especially flagship headphones, I lament the fact that there is no perfect headphone, at least not in my experience so far across many pairs. A bit like Captain Ahab though, I continue to scour the ocean of flagship headphones and headphones in general to try to find that elusive white whale, that perfect headphone. I thought I'd come close when I found the Focal Utopia 2022 version, but even that isn't a perfect headphone. And then along came David. David is a friend of a channel Patreon member. I met David at the 2024 StereoNet Melbourne Hi-Fi Show, and to keep a short story shorter, David was able to lend me his Final Audio D8000s. Not the Pro version, just the standard version. By all reports, the regular D8000 would be a closer fit to my tastes. By some reports, it would be my Moby Dick. A headphone like the D8000 that retails for $4,000 US deserves a premium system. To deliver on that, all of my testing for this video revolved around the use of the Chord M Scaler, Chord Dave and Enlium AMP23R headphone amp. Of course I used other gear as well, such as the Linear Tube Audio Aero DAC and their Velo headphone amp, as well as the Live Harmony DAC and the HP2A headphone amp that goes with it. And first impressions of the D8000 on all the different gear that I tried them with was very good. The D8000s offer excellent tonal balance across the entire frequency range and fantastic feel in the bass without enhancing the bass. These are a very neutral sounding headphone to my ears, with a little bit of dryness in the upper mid-range. And I mean that just in the sense that it's not lush or creamy, it's just accurate and neutral. They have a sound that is crisp and articulate, but they don't show off. They also provide excellent soundstage width, separation of sounds, and focus of the image within the soundstage. Had I finally found the one? At 60 ohms and with a sensitivity of 98 decibels per milliwatt, the D8000s are easy to drive and were more comfortable than I expected on my head. The cable is nice enough to use and it feels like a quality headphone cable too. Surprisingly, the D8000s actually measured quite similarly to my beloved Focal Utopias. At least in terms of their overall frequency response shape. There were some differences here and there. It was time for comparisons. I happened to receive the Headphone 2 GT at about the same time that the Final D8000 came into my life. They, the GTs, also impressed me. Compared to the D8000 though, the Headphone 2 GT is a little bit more sterile. They're more like a studio monitor. That's great if it's what you're looking for, but it left the much more expensive D8000s as maybe being the preferable headphone for pure listening enjoyment. I've discussed the GTs in much more detail in my full review of them, so I'll leave it there for now about the GTs, with the D8000s holding strong. Another headphone I had here at the same time as the D8000s was the Yamaha flagship YH5000 SE. These are an even more expensive headphone from another highly respected Japanese brand. And I mentioned before how great the feel of the bass is with the D8000s. Well, the YH5000 is similar. Similar, but not quite the same. The D8000s still held the edge with a tactile and tangible bass that's never enhanced and never takes over. It just feels great when you listen to a bass guitar or a kick bass, like in the opening of Do the Romp. The D8000s weren't done though. They also outshone the YH5000s with a mid-range tone that's a bit fuller, a little bit richer perhaps, but they still remained largely neutral or natural sounding and were more enjoyable than the YH5000s to me as a result. I don't hear any sense of lushness or romanticism from the sound of the D8000s, but they also don't ever feel the need to punish you, and they were taking on every headphone I'd thrown at them and walking away with head held high. After all these years and all those headphones, maybe these were my Moby Dick. Well, as they say, you have to beat the best to be the best. It was time for the real test against the Focal Utopia 2022 version. The Final Audio D8000s are special, there is no doubt about it. Sadly though, they're not the white whale. They're not the one. That crown, for me at least, still sits with the Focal Utopia 2022. It was immediately apparent that the Utopias deliver a slightly better sense of articulation in sounds like the chimes in the beginning of Seglepore. I hope I'm saying that right, I have no idea. They also deliver greater soundstage depth. And that's something I'd also noticed with the YH5000s and the Headphone 2 GT. All three headphones I had tried to this point delivered greater sense of soundstage depth and therefore layering of the sounds than the D8000s. It doesn't make the D8000s unenjoyable, far from it, and what I said before about the other headphones is true. I prefer the D8000s in lots of ways over those two headphones. But sounds had a sense of three-dimensionality from the Focal Utopias that was completely lacking from the D8000s by comparison. The treble was another area of difference, but it was also less clear-cut. The treble was smoother and a bit more refined from the Focal Utopia. That was good. But the D8000s can be a little bit more forgiving on certain treble notes, where the Focal Utopias have some peaks in the treble and can get a bit sharp and a bit splashy on certain sounds. Sounds such as the cymbals in the chorus of Creep. Again, these are all comparative differences and both headphones are amazing, but it can be good to understand the strengths and weaknesses of any headphone, even a whale, when making your decisions. As I spent a bunch of time listening to and enjoying the D8000s before I swapped to any of the other headphones that I have here, I think the D8000s are the comfortable champion when it comes to bass feel, and also balancing treble clarity with being forgiving enough to handle anything that you throw at them in terms of a bad audio mix, a harsher source chain, anything you like. They won't punish you, but they've still got lots of clarity, detail and articulation. In all other ways though, the Utopias, to me at least, get closer to the perfection that I think we're all probably seeking. Of course, your perfect and my perfect could be different though. So I'll leave you with these thoughts to help you triangulate where the perfect headphone might sit for you. To me, the D8000s offer a similar sense of feel to the Abyss 1266 and the Susvara Unveiled, while also splitting the difference between them by delivering a lovely balance of bass presence without ever being over-enhanced or overdoing the bass. They also offer the tonal balance of something like the Focal Utopia with the slightly more friendly nature of something like the Meza Elites. But I think they sit much closer to the overall tonal balance of the Utopias, and that's probably a good thing in terms of naturality and even neutrality. All of this combines to make them somewhat of a genre chameleon and even a source chain chameleon. They sounded great on everything I paired them up with, whether it was a Delta Sigma DAC or an R2R DAC, a solid state amp or a tube-based amp. The only thing that holds the D8000s back for me is the fact that the sound arrives at you in a straight line from your left ear straight through the middle of your head to your right ear. In other words, it never pushes forwards into any sort of virtual space, and that can be fine, it can be enjoyable, but I'd like a bit more depth in the soundstage. If that's a deal breaker for you, check out my comparison of 6 other flagship headphones across all different genres next. It's up here. And for now, a huge thank you of course to David for lending me his D8000s. Thank you also to YouTube channel members, to channel Patreon members, and to those of you that leave super thanks on videos like this one. And until next time, happy listening, be kind to each other, and I'll see you here again soon on Passion for Sound.